Hey, what's up everyone? This is Silver Slayer. Thank you for tuning into this video. I have a crazy article, actually a crazy theory. This is going to be interesting because there's a lot we could talk about, and I'm excited to jump into this. I would love to hear your insight, your thoughts, your opinion on this topic. Now, before we jump into it, I gotta say something. Smash that like button. Let's see if this video can get 300 likes. Like the video if you love precious metals. You better be subscribed because on a day-to-day basis, I'm giving you the newest information in the world of gold and silver. Link to this article is in the description. Let's jump into it. So, this article is titled The Perfect Economic Storm to Stack Up on Gold. And that makes sense, right? The perfect storm is brewing. The stars are aligning. But it goes even farther. So I thought it was going to be, just an article based on everything adding up that makes silver and gold look bullish. But they start talking more and more about the gold standard. Now, if you don't know what the gold standard is, the gold standard was a standard we had back in the day where our money, our fiat, our US dollars were actually backed by gold. And you can remember, when our coins had silver in them. So when I would hand the store clerk a 50-cent Walking Liberty piece, there was actually 50 cents worth of silver in that. So I was exchanging a valuable for a good. But nowadays our money doesn't have that. So you can see why inflation, why debt piles up so fast. But anyway, that's a different video. But now you can get some context though of where we're going with this. They're saying we could actually go back to that, looking at how bad, how burnt our money is, how oversaturated it is, and how little of gold and silver there is. Do you think that's actually possible? Donald Trump has jokingly talked about it. I've jokingly talked about it. I've made videos breaking down how possible it is and what would have to happen. And the whole point, it's not possible. It's really not. And anyone who thinks it is, like this article, they talk about it from a standpoint of it actually possibly happening. It's just crazy. But anyways, I just wanted to share that little intro so you kind of you're on the same page when we dive into this. Let's jump into it. So central bank reserve is proven to be an effective early warning indicator for predicting a currency crisis, which is really true. The world has been secretly stockpiling gold for decades, which is not a good signal. If we return to the gold standard, the yellow metal should be revalued at $14,000, $35,000. So, crazy theory, right? Crazy theory. And I'll give them one point. If we did, this statement would be true if it happens. But the thing is, I don't think it's going to happen. We're moving forwards, not backwards. The gold standard was something that happened. We don't move backwards anymore. We go forwards. If there was going to be a new currency, it would be something along the lines of cryptocurrency. We are going into a digital era. Everything is swipe of a card, cardless ATMs, pay from phone. Look at go to the grocery store. Nobody's spending US dollars or fiat money. It's all digital. All digital. So to think we would go back to gold standard, which is extremely the opposite of digital, would just be ineffective, inconvenient, and really just doesn't make sense. I mean, it makes sense from a logical standpoint, but that would have only made sense if we never got rid of it. But now that we did, going back to it would be a lot harder. So anyways, recently, and let me know what you think about that. Do you think we actually could go back to the gold standard? Do you think it's possible? And what do you think would have to happen for that to happen? So recently, gold has seen a lot of movement and volatility. With its price is about to return to the level of $2,000, could it be the right time to take profit now? Or is it better to wait until it records a new high? And that's the million-dollar question, right? If I were you, I would simply buy and hold and completely ignore the negligible fluctuations because I'm telling you the gold could hit 14,000 or more. If it is understandable that it may sound a little bit speculative, but consider the rise of value will not be linear but exponential, which I agree a little bit. I mean, and that's, people always ask that. I can compare it to silver in 2011, Bitcoin a couple years ago. When something is so high, you have that dilemma. Like, should I cash out now while I know while I know I'm gonna get some good, but what if I wait until it goes higher? Then I can make more money. And usually greediness is the thing that bites you in the butt. What I always say is sell a little bit over the next couple of days, couple of weeks. Keep a keen and watchful eye on the markets. If it looks like it's going to keep working in your favor, then maybe hold off or sell a little bit more, just depending on what the markets are looking like. You can compare the charts and what's happening in the economy to get a pretty good formula, a good idea on where the prices are headed. It's not like you're just blindly investing, right? So, anyways, uh, we are entering a financial crisis that is the greatest the world has ever seen. But on the opposite side of every crisis, there is also or always an opportunity. The important thing is, are you well prepared and have the resources to play around when the moment comes? This is why precious metals, I guess, could be seen as the rebellious metal going against the grain, because precious metals primarily do good when things are bad. So it's almost like if we want to make money, we kind of have to hope that bad things happen. And that's messed up, right? But nothing else is like that. Stocks, when the economy isn't good, right? Everything is pro government, pro economy, but gold and silver really aren't. They're safe haven metals. When times are bad, people invest into them because they don't trust banks and governments. So you can see why it goes against the grain, why it's seen as a rebellious metal. So the important thing is, are you well prepared and have the resources to play when the moment comes? If you have read his previous gold analysis, you maybe were aware he preached a small portion or proportion of gold in portfolio simply for hedging inflation, but uh, for monetary catastrophes such as the collapse of the currency system. And this is reckoning day, as many economists believe it's inevitable. It will come ultimately. But now is the best time to prepare the ground, buy gold, sit back during the perfect economic storm so that our wealth can be preserved for the future. And that's what we're doing, right? Wealth preservation, financial freedom is the end goal. I guess he does make a different point by saying it's not only a hedge against inflation, but it's also, how did he word that? It's also for a monetary catastrophe, and such as the collapse of the currency system. Now, I don't think the currency system would collapse like people say. That's like the movie scene collapse. I think it would be a slow adjustment, a slow transformation into something else. I don't think it would just one day the dollar crashes, next day we have nothing. I think it would be there would be a bridge. I've talked about Ripple, which is a cryptocurrency, that if I could logically think that we would move into another form of money or a new monetary system, it would be Ripple. Ripple's a cryptocurrency, but why Ripple? Because Ripple's the only cryptocurrency that is controlled by central banks, by by banks. Isn't that crazy? So a central bank is actually in control of a decentralized currency. So if and since central banks have their foot in the door with crypto and we're going digitally, if there was to be a currency, I think that it would be Ripple, because it still has the benefits of the centralized system, but it also has the benefits and the convenience of the digital world of cryptocurrency plus the blockchain. So nothing else no other crypto has that, by the way. Every other crypto is solely decentralized. So I think it would probably be Ripple, in my opinion. Let me know what you think about that. So to start with, let's look at what the banks have been doing lately. In a comprehensive analysis, researchers by the name of Frankel and Sorelos found central bank reserve is most useful early warning indicator that can explain currency crisis countries beforehand. Nowadays, you can look at stimulus packages, quantitative easing, the FOMC meetings, what's going on. $1 trillion stimulus packages, I mean, that's big. right? That is huge, and what that shows is things are pretty serious. But you got to think, you have to play the tape through. Where's all that trillions of dollars coming from? From our taxes? Where's it coming from? You best believe that we're not going to put together a stimulus package that hefty, and it's just going to be okay. There's going to be a price to pay. Most people that are getting the stimulus packages don't care about the price. They're like, "Hey, I'm getting my money." But in the end, at the end of the day, um, you might later on. So, uh, if central banks really had confidence in themselves, paper money, they would get rid of all the gold in their vaults. Said it. But, I mean, it's not so true. So he's saying if if paper money was, if they were so confident in their dollar, they would get rid of all the gold in their vaults and sell it at high prices and put the proceeds into dollars, euros. But instead, they're clinging on to gold as if something. Hold on, but that's that. See, no, that's not necessarily true in my opinion. They could hold on to gold because that's still the main source of value, if they want to admit it or not. Selling the gold for more dollars, they can print dollars. They can print trillions of dollars. They can't print gold. Gold is something that cannot be created nor destroyed, which is the real value or real term for money. Money is something that cannot be created nor destroyed. So why, when they know how valuable, well, everyone knows how valuable gold is, why would they sell that for more money with it, and they can just print money out of thin air? And that doesn't mean necessarily they're like holding on to something going down the drain. I honestly, that's probably what's happening. But the way he put it, it's kind of, it's just kind of very out there, or it's a strong point to be, that could easily be looked at differently. So stockpiling gold, we could see the countries with the biggest gold reserves, United States by far, and this is also why the U.S. dollar is the world's reserve currency. You can see that the U.S. dollar is the world's reserve currency, but also has the most gold. So we have the most gold and the strongest dollar. By the way, did you guys know since the year 2000, the dollar has lost 44% of its value? 98% total, but in the last 20 years, it's lost 44% of its value. Fall of a giant. History has taught us the fiat system would often end up disastrously, and it is just a matter of time before people will wake up from the American dream to realize they're living in the world of excessive debt, thus creating a panic that will ever change the tide of the currency system. In fact, the fiat system is so fragile that once the Fed loses its credibility, people would immediately dump their money and rush to something like gold that has intrinsic value. As a world reserve currency, the dollar theoretically is less vulnerable, but a handful of people abandoning the currency will be sufficient to create butterfly effect that will influence the mass population. The value of the dollar will soon decay with less and less people in countries that are using it as medium of exchange. Currently, there is an increasing trend that countries are becoming less reliant on the dollar, which is poses a challenge as being world's leading reserve currency. So I mean, it sounds crazy. It sounds like a lot, but it is true to some extent. See, this guy writes very, I guess, dramatic or extreme. See, it probably would happen, but not to the extreme measures that he puts it. Um, yes, countries are starting to opt out of the US dollar being the reserve currency, the world reserve currency, which is dangerous since the dollar doesn't have real value. The dollar is worth as much as people think it's worth, and if people start to think it's not worth much, then it literally isn't worth much. So that could be a dangerous situation. Um, and as people start to realize that the dollar isn't valuable, it could start to cause a domino effect. But there still is so much gray area. There's still so much unknown. So many things would have to happen, and there's two sides of the coin, pun intended. It just, We don't know. I mean, it sounds good. It sounds good. I mean, it could be a movie. That could be a great movie scene or whatever. But for it to actually happen and play out exactly like that is highly unlikely. There's going to be differences. There's going to be things that he's not thinking of or that pop up. And the unknown variable is the most important thing you got to think of. In the next 10 years, I'm sure there's going to be crazy things that come up that could highly affect and change this whole paragraph. Nobody could have predicted a global pandemic right before the 2020 presidential election to put things like this, because think about it, nobody thought we would have to put together $1 trillion stimulus packages exposing the US dollar to the world, how broke we are. Nobody thought any of this was going to happen. So imagine in 10 years from now what's going to be happening that could easily change any of this. So I don't know. I'm kind of just thinking with my head here, but so this is true though. U.S. dollar share of global official reserves. So gold revaluation for decades. There's been ongoing debates by politicians and economists whether the world should return to the gold standard in case of a failure of the current system. Indeed, if central banks think they can print their way out of oblivion, and that's the funniest part about this. It's so unrealistic. They would have to print their way out of oblivion, and then returning to the old ways might bring them more benefits than harm. But printing their way out of oblivion. We're $27 trillion in debt, by the way. $27 trillion in debt. It's like we're using debt to get ourselves out of more debt. It's like paying off a credit card with another credit card. You see what I'm saying? We're digging ourselves so deep, but the more we try to dig, the deeper the hole's getting. We're not getting anywhere. So I bet many Americans have already forgotten the day where the government confiscated their gold at $20 an ounce, subsequently revalued $35 an ounce in 1933. I remember that. Well, I wasn't alive then, but I talk about it a lot on my channel. That is when the gold to silver ratio got changed from 16 to 1 to 75 to 1 from FDR when he was in office. He literally just devalued silver, just made silver literally worthless during this little stint. And that's a real thing. The gold to silver ratio was 16 to 1, not 60, 16 to 1, and then it shot up to 75 to 1 during this little situation. I don't even know what to call it. This little scheme he had going on. So it was legalized robbery that could happen today. And I've actually made a couple different videos throughout the years on this channel talking about this gold confiscation. I made a video about a month ago, if you want to go find it, talking about all the instances where presidents could set out an order or a lawful act or whatever to confiscate people's gold. It's not as crazy as you think. It's not people busting down your door trying to search your house for gold. It's more they put out something along the lines of a order, and you can, in return, you can turn in your gold for money or for free. I mean, depending on how bad the situation is. But usually it's when the banks or the economy's in bad shape, and the president's like, hey, whoever has gold, we need it, and we'll give you some money for it, for way less than it really is worth. Sometimes not even that, though. There's a couple of different instances. Obviously, it's not every situation is like that. The video is very interesting. This happens all over the world and has been for a long time. So it would be cool to go back and check that video out if you've never seen it. So anyways, here's his takeaway. Key article, or this article whatsoever, does not encourage anyone to speculate nor to support the idea of fully loaded with the yellow metal. Instead, it builds on my previous valuations to provide a new perspective for our readers. It is always worth knowing that the world is playing with fire. Sooner or later it will get hurt. Hence, why would anyone ever trade their gold, the real money, for fiat, the fake money? Ultimately, the intelligent investor is to diversify his asset classes and always include at least a small proportion of gold in his portfolio for wealth preservation in an unexpected disaster. And that actually just brought my last point I want to make in this video. People, so we know that gold is real money, or silver is real money, and the dollar is fake money. We know that. So let's say everyone agrees with that. Everyone watching this video, we agree with that. So when the time comes, why would you sell your gold for money back? That's what most people are going to do, but isn't that defeating the whole purpose? See, if I was to buy a whole bunch of gold and silver right now, I'm transferring my fiat money, my fiat dollars into something that is actually worth something. But then once gold hits $5,000 or silver hits $100, I would be selling my gold and silver back for the fiat money that's fake, that's worthless. So what is the whole point? To just never sell? But what are you going to do with a whole bunch of gold and silver that you're stuck with? One day you're going to have to liquidate it. But if you liquidate it, you're going back to the thing that you already were trying to get out of in the first place. You know, it's kind of a weird situation. But at the end of the day, maybe a lot of people know that the dollar is the most liquid. You have to food, water, shelter. You have to survive with it. You can't go to the store and buy a pair of shoes with a coin, with a gold silver coin. So maybe you do want to liquidate it when the profit is much higher. So I mean, I get it. It's just a different situation. That's why some people are never going to sell. They're going to pass it down to their generations. But anyways, I'm going to wrap this video up here. It's getting pretty long. If you thought this video was educational, informational, or at least entertaining, make sure to smash the like button. I post daily videos. Links to this article will be in the description. Go check out the video I posted earlier today. Definitely some interesting stuff. I promise that's a good video. Thanks for tuning in. This was Silver Slayer. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.